Is driving from Denmark to Paris and Normandy in France a good idea? Is driving that far on a 50 to 60 year old scooter really worth the risk? Would you even get there? Or would there be problems? This story was originally a 3-episode series. This is the shorter, more condensed version of the story. So sit back and enjoy the next 45 minutes of touring Europe on old scooters. Last year, I drove from Denmark to northern Italy on my old Lambretta. It was a fantastic trip and an adventure with complications. Hopefully, this year wouldn't end in disaster. The goal of this year's trip was France, from Denmark to Paris and then on to Normandy on the west coast of France. There and back, a trip of over 3,000 kilometers on an old scooter. This year, I left the old Lambretta at home. Late last summer, I bought a Vespa Bridge Veloce from 1975 with a newly built engine and many upgraded parts. The group was more or less the same as last year's Italy trip. A few missing, a few new joiners. We were 5 Vespas and 4 Lambrettas, and one who had to change out the scooter with a motorcycle due to back problems. We started out early Tuesday morning. From Peter's garage, we made our way south, the first stretch, straight on the motorway, not to waste too much time in city traffic. After a few hours, we reached the ferry port at Rødby. After getting off the main road from the ferry port, it was on to beautiful B-roads in northern Germany. A great area with lots of green fields, trees along the roads and small villages that are generally easy and fluent to drive through. In the afternoon, we hit Hamburg. Not the best timing, as the traffic quickly became heavy and full of big trucks. stopped for a quick pit stop, a few screws were tightened and a carburetor was adjusted. Nothing big, but something you can expect when driving old scooters for longer distances. A little after 7 in the evening, we arrived at our first hotel. A solid first day of driving around 400 kilometers, and now finally time for a beer and some schnitzel. The next day, a little after 8, we moved on, southwest towards Holland and Belgium. Early in the afternoon, we stopped in a town called Wesel, north of Essen in Germany, to get a quick drink. Here, we were quickly caught up by a local scooter rider on a beautiful light blue Vespa with a sidecar. He tried to convince us to join a local scooter meetup Saturday, but unfortunately, we had other plans and a tight schedule. After a little over an hour of driving, we passed into Holland. Our time in Holland was short and we quickly hit the border to Belgium. After a few hours of driving, it was once again time to park the scooter and settle down for a cold one and some food. And who knew? Lambretta's sidewinder seat has multiple uses. Belgium has really bumpy roads, like roads, sorry, at least the ones we hit. Just before the hotel, one of the Lambrettas had lost its rear brake arm. It likely rattled off somewhere and we were long gone. Even though the scooter had an upgraded hydraulic front brake, this was not optimal. A brake arm for a Lambretta and its locking clip is not something you just buy at the local auto parts store, so we needed to change our plans a little. I suddenly remembered that on one of my videos from last year's trip, someone had commented that if we were ever in Belgium and needed help, we should just reach out. And now this was the case. I contacted Charles, who lives northwest of Brussels, and he quickly offered to bring his own brake arm from a Lambretta he was restoring. This would be a 3-hour trip to us and back. Very kind, but we simply couldn't accept that. but Charles also gave some tips on who to contact and reach out to the local Lambretta community. Another great example on how helpful people can be when driving a classic vehicle. After a quick lunch, we finally reached France. Afternoon, we hit Paris. Even though it was Saturday, it was clear that going through Paris equals a lot of traffic. Not the greatest thing on an old scooter with manual gears and a heavy clutch. But we managed to check in at a hotel in an eastern suburb of Paris, have dinner and make plans for the coming days. Now that we had a better idea on how far we wanted to ride every day, we faced a dilemma. We simply couldn't cover the distance needed every day and still have time to see sights and relax a little. We wanted to spend some time exploring Normandy, but also needed to be back home in time, still considering that there was a chance of a breakdown costing extra hours. But the next goal was clear. Go to the Eiffel Tower and, if possible, get a picture of all of us in front of the tower. So early Sunday, we hit the breakfast buffet as soon as possible. And at 7 in the morning, we left the hotel and headed to the center of Paris. And what a day it turned out to be. Riding into the center of Paris so early in the morning was like being in a movie. There were nearly no cars on the streets and very few people. Just before 8, we reached the tower and quickly did a little naughty parking in a spot between the tower and the river. All high on excitement, we took our pictures and were all ecstatic about reaching our goal. If you're going to ride to the Eiffel Tower, do it early Sunday morning. rode up Champs-Élysées, something that for many Danes is connected to the Tour de France cycling. More cars were starting to show up, but still a fantastic feeling. And there it was, the Arc de Triomphe. A quick spin around and another naughty stop for a picture. And after riding a while in tunnels, we pop up on the other side, and suddenly you're out of central Paris. As a way to reach Normandy without using too much time, we opted to take the highway for a few hours. We did do a little highway back in Denmark to get out of Copenhagen, but now we quickly settled into a rhythm. We kind of found a speed we all could follow in a fairly close pack, all finding the distance between each other that they were comfortable with. This way, we reach Normandy at a good pace. Early in the afternoon, we reached the American cemetery at Omaha Beach, around 300 kilometers west of the Eiffel Tower. The American cemetery in Normandy is a burial site for Americans who lost their life in the Second World War. It was a very special atmosphere, and you cannot avoid feeling touched, going through the endless rows of crosses. And this was only the American losses. It really makes you think about the scale of what happened there 80 years ago. Omaha Beach is only one of 5 D-Day landing beaches in Normandy, and the whole area is filled with sights to see. After a quick lunch, we had a stop at the Memorial for the Royal Engineers. A great little spot with a few things to see and a great view up and down the coastline. For the night, we checked in at a local bed and breakfast. Here it was time for a quick change of clutch plates, a beer, and a talk with some of the other friendly guests. This place was the first place we stayed that we hadn't booked beforehand. The first 3 hotels were booked in advance, but after Paris, we didn't dare plan where we would be. A breakdown can cost a lot of time, and you won't reach as far as planned. The weather may cause you to change the route, and you may all agree that the mood isn't for riding as long on a specific day. The rest of the days we generally booked a hotel for the night around lunch, where we had a good idea on how far we wanted to go. About 50 kilometers up the coast, we stopped at the small city of Honfleur, a very atmospheric old town placed right where the river Seine enters the English Channel, the same river that goes through Paris and passes by the Eiffel Tower. That afternoon, we headed east, more inland, and ended the day in the city Amiens. Again, for a nice dinner, a beer or two, and a good night's sleep. Tuesday morning, we headed out again. Doing a mix of motorways and smaller roads meant that we had more time to spend visiting places and driving a few selected scenic routes, without driving the entire day. Unfortunately, the trusty blue PX started acting up and had to get a little assistance to a better spot to stop. While inspecting the carburetor, something weird with the rubber manifold was found. Upon disassembling, it was found that the rubber had broken down from the inside, and large chunks of rubber were pulled from the reed valve. We had no spare manifold, but the existing one was cleaned and the scooter was running well again. After quite a stretch northeast into Belgium again, we ended up between Brussels and Antwerp, in the city Rumst, home of LambrettaFinder. Sam, who owns the place, has had this fantastic workshop for around 20 years. Sam gave us a tour of his place and was able to help us out with a few parts we needed. Finally, the missing brake arm was fixed. He also had a dyno, and of course we had to have a scooter on the dyno. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, something did go wrong. The little woodruff key that holds the flywheel on the axle could not take the strain and broke, resulting in the flywheel spinning loose and eventually getting stuck. After a bit of cleanup, the flywheel was secured again and the scooter is running. No significant damage was done. Thanks so much, Sam, for helping out and letting us hang around. I don't think he got a lot of work done that day. We booked a hotel 100 kilometers west of Hasselt and headed out. Somewhere along the way, we were split up. Navigating by a small beeline on your glove box means that you may not see when to turn off in time. This resulted in 3 of us getting lost from the group. I ran out of fuel, and the 2 other guys in my little group noticed too late that I had pulled over in the emergency lane. This was a busy highway, but luckily I could roll to a spot with a little more room. After turning the tank to reserve and adding fuel from my spare, I still wasn't able to start the scooter. After some investigation, I found that the spark plug had died. In the end, I managed to get the scooter started again. And just as I prepared to move on, 2 roadside assistance trucks arrived. I explained that all was well, the scooter seemed to be running again. But they told me I was not allowed to leave. According to Belgian law, once they were there, they would have to take me away. I was not allowed to drive away by myself. I had 2 options. Either they could pick me up and drop me off at the next exit, or they could take my scooter to a depot where I could pick it up the next day. A lot of time wasted, and both options would cost me hundreds of euros. After more discussion and frustration, I chose the cheapest. Drop me off at the next exit. But it wasn't that easy. I had some cash euros. I was about 10 euros short, and card payment was only doable by some Belgian app that I couldn't get working. Luckily the driver was very helpful, and we tried to withdraw cash at a petrol station. Not doable. In the end, they were forced to drop my scooter off at the depot. For a final attempt, the driver managed to find a card reader thing at the depot, and I was able to pay for their services and get my scooter right there. I pulled it outside the depot place, kicked it once and it started. No problems. For f***'s sake. That night, I slept very well. What a day. The next morning, we were all on the road again. On the highway with a clear goal. 150 km stretch out of Belgium, through a little corner of Holland and into Germany. On the way, an exhaust manifold broke and gave the Lambretta a more sportier sound. Just west of Cologne, Köln, we reached a place many classic scooter enthusiasts know, ScooterCenter. We got a chance to see a little behind the scenes and hear a little about the company's history. We bought a few spares and some just had to get a new exhaust. I replaced my rear tire, which clearly showed signs of use. The Lambretta exhaust mount was finally fixed. We ended up spending most of our day at ScooterCenter before leaving. On a trip like this, you end up doing a lot of refuels. So we simply had to visit this special petrol station. Now for Cologne, there's an all-in with a helicopter on the roof and an airplane next to it. we headed a little further north. This time to see some things with more than 2 wheels. Düsseldorf is home of classic Remise, an old train facility repurposed to a luxury garage for new and classic cars. The place has an overwhelming amount of crazy cars, absolutely packed together. For the last stop of the day, we headed north to a town called Gelsenkirchen, north of Essen. Here, our handsome Swede had a contact, Björn, who kindly invited us to come by and offered to store our scooters as our hotel nearby didn't have the best parking options. We had a fantastic cozy evening there and got to meet some of his scooter friends. The next morning, we picked up our scooters at Björn and headed out. After riding for a few days, I noticed that I was always in the back of the group. I don't think my scooter was the slowest of the group, but I clearly wasn't pushing it as hard as I could. After breaking down twice last year, I had the constant feeling in the back of my head not to push the scooter too hard. A fear of breaking down. Every time the scooter felt different or there was a weird sound, the feeling hit me. Something's wrong. Generally, there wasn't anything wrong, but the feeling stuck with me most of the trip. This year, I just wanted to make it all the way home. Not much happened this day, other than us traveling northwest towards home. The weather forecast was looking pretty moist for Sunday, so our plan was to try to get home a day earlier. We checked into a hotel south of Hamburg and called it a day. Friday, we was up and at it again. Again, back in northern Germany with plenty of nice roads. In the afternoon, we reached the last hotel in Lübeck and settled in. This was a planned short day, so we had plenty of time to go out and enjoy the last night. Celebrate a good trip and the fact that all of us, hopefully, would make it home. The last day, we took it easy and had a later than usual breakfast. And slowly headed out for the final stretch. After 1.5 hours, we reached the ferry back to Denmark. And then it was straight north to the final goal. At a petrol station south of Copenhagen, we said goodbye to the handsome Swede, as he would continue directly to the bridge to Sweden. He still had quite a ride left. And finally, Saturday afternoon, the rest of us joined up at Peter's garage to say our farewells and officially wrap up the trip. In the end, 10 days, 9 hotels, about 40 fuel stops, way too many Wiener Schnitzels, about 3,400 kilometers, some fantastic places visited, and a lot of fun and laughs. No serious real breakdowns. All stuff that fairly easy could be fixed when needed or caught before it became a problem. Again this year, something broke on the dyno. Maybe we should just stay away from dynos on these trips. And being picked up by roadside services in Belgium and not allowed to drive away by yourself? Is this a thing or was this a scam? I hope you enjoyed the story of this year's trip. If you haven't already watched the video from the previous year's trip to Italy, I really think you should. If you really want to see more of our trip to Normandy, you can watch the original 3-episode series or the full no music ride through Paris to the Eiffel Tower. Feel free to like and share the video, and you're welcome to comment if you have any tips on great places to visit on a classic scooter.